start going here. Welcome back to Light Talk, where the paranormal and the supernatural is a part of our everyday life. We have an awesome guest today. He's got tons of stories, so I'm excited to get going. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to hand the mic over to him and go ahead and introduce yourself, and we will get started. Welcome to the show.
Very good, Dana. It is so lovely to be with you. I'm excited to, talk about a lot of what I do and my world. Um, I guess what's coming to mind and related to your show is, um, I guess lately and for a while I've been living a life that I call ADA, aliens, dragons, and angels. And so that's kind of like they're all around me. I connect with them. I heal myself and others with them. Um, so just for those of you who don't know or who haven't heard of me or seen me on other shows or anywhere, my name is Troy J. Bacon, and I'm a starseed. Um, I've learned that I'm among the 144,000 starseed vibration, which for those of you who may have heard that, I've learned that it's actually not a set number of souls, but it's a vibration, energy vibration that um, a lot of starseed and interdimensional souls are accessing and vibrating at either part of the time or all the time. And so, yeah, that the 144,000 is starseed and angel and human kind of hybridized together and integrated together. So that's what I know about that. And beyond that, what I do is kind of in the realm of Reiki, energy healing. Um, After you really get into learning Reiki, though, and practicing it, it becomes a lot more than just being certified in Reiki. It's more like that's kind of your lifestyle. And I've learned Usui Reiki, angelic Reiki. My dragons have taught me their school of Reiki from Orion, and the Norse gods also asked me to structure and write up sort of a version of Norse Reiki, a process of that. And so, yeah, um, I not only help people with healing and clearing, awakening their energies, um, finding and awakening their soul purpose, but I also remove entities and demonic beings from people who may be suffering with that, dealing with that. So there's some of my services.
I knew you had a list of them.
Yeah, that's the nutshell of it anyway.
So let's go ahead and talk about some of the experiences you've had while working with these. First, we have like your healing. You do the QHHT and the Reiki and hypnotherapy. So, what kind of experiences have you had with working with all of that?
Thank you for asking. I'll talk about them one by category, I guess. I want to clarify that I'm not certified in QHHT, the Dolores Cannon style of quantum healing hypnosis, but my hypnotherapy is pretty much parallel or akin to that. And I was trained in more clinical or classical hypnotherapy techniques, which isn't like some of that really doesn't quite fit in with a clinical medical model. Some of it can be applied to that, but then when you really start even getting into the hypnotherapy side of it, it's really easy to start accessing your higher self and angels and other like dimensional um, realms in hypnosis. And so, but I've learned the clinical techniques of that anyway, the science of that. Um, but then after I started practicing that with people, I found that the archangels, angels, and spirit guides just started to just show up and be a part of that and communicate with me. I started to channel some messages from people's spirit guides and angels, and um, yeah, so that kind of became my style of healing that just was natural to me. And then after a year or two of that, just practicing what I learned of hypnotherapy in that style and what I know of that. Then I started learning Reiki, starting with just Asuri Reiki. Actually, I'm a walk-in soul, and so my Reiki teacher um, is an angelic walk-in, an angel walk-in, and so I learned from her the Asui style, the really traditional style, which I have to say about Reiki and Reiki symbols, especially Asui Reiki symbols. There's only four Reiki symbols. Um, Personally, I think it's quite unfortunate that a lot of people have mutated the four Asuri Reiki symbols. There's only four of them. Originally, there only need to be four of them to work with the four bodies: the physical, mental, emotional, energy body, spirit body. Um, and there's only, at least as far as I know, I was taught that the original traditional symbols that were used in Usui Reiki, which I believe are kind of like derived from ancient Sanskrit symbols, according to the legend. Except these days, wherever I go online, especially um, when I'm looking at like people's Reiki symbols on the internet and on products on online stores, online shopping sites, um, they're not the original Usui Reiki symbols. They've been mutated and changed, and they look weird to me. Um, Maybe they can work, but to me, they just don't feel quite right energetically. Um, so yeah, I'm I'm very picky about traditional Usui Reiki, especially, and staying very traditional with Reiki teachings. I was taught angelic Reiki after, like, this was interesting. So I practice angelic Reiki, and I found that that's quite efficient for removing demons and dark spirits from people. But the day of my, um, the last day of my Reiki mastership training and certification, I was sent a message during that training from one of my friends, inviting me to learn angelic Reiki. And he didn't even know about that. So that was like definitely a sign, and I went for that. Um, yeah, there's only two symbols though that my dragons say are involved in their um, diamond light crystal dragon Reiki, their school of it. Um, I'm still kind of refining that, learning that, and writing up um, my Dragon Reiki manuals, training manuals. So I'm not quite ready to launch that yet, but I can teach Usui traditional Reiki right now. If anyone wants to start learning that.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, that's a bit of what I do with hypnotherapy and Reiki.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So while you've done this, um, you've had experiences with connecting with the 5D and having telepathically uh, conversations with others, with angels and the spirit guides and gremlins and Madeline or Magdalene. Yeah,
Yeah, I actually have connected with Mary Magdalene, Christ energies. Yeah.
that's pretty cool. So what kind of angels have you connected with?
Hmm. Especially the archangels. Um, a lot of people recognize seven main archangels, or the seven. I've heard there's actually like about 11. It's definitely more than the main seven. Um, I think there's really 14 archangels, like the primary archangels that are known. I think there's about 11 archangels that are recognized in classical Kabbalah, which I've dug into a bit. Kabbalah is like you don't just learn it like Reiki quickly. It's like a life study. If you commit to it and are serious about it, it requires commitment. Um, anyway, yeah, in Kabbalah, there's 11 of the Sephirah, of the spherical energy centers of the Tree of Life, in that system, and each one classically is associated with an archangel or archangel quality, as I've been learning it. And so those are 11, but actually there's the Essene tradition too, um, that I've only learned a little bit about. I know that they had a tradition. Um, I think it's still kind of a school that people learn in today's world, but I don't know. It's definitely the Essenes were oppressed by um, I've heard the Jewish Orthodoxy a long time ago, but anyway, the Essene tradition has 14 archangels that they would pray to, seven in the morning, seven in the evening before they go to bed. Um, and so that became like the seven roots of the tree of life and seven branches of the tree of life in their tradition. Yeah, I've connected with archangels. They've shown up for me. I've channeled a few of them. Um, I do regular channelings with a Seraphim, who is one of my close spirit guides. Archangel Metatron, I've channeled some matches from a few times on YouTube. And in a few, I think only two or three angelic Reiki sessions now, Archangel Michael has channeled his energy through my body. That's especially only happens when a client, he says, needs extra protection and healing, and that's pretty rare. But his energy is quite comforting, assuring. It's like he only does that when he needs to anchor more and more of his energy more clearly in this three-dimensional world. But yeah, the archangels I know pretty well. I I kind of feel that there are other like legions of Archangel Michael and other angels that I've probably been blessed by, but yeah, the archangels are the main ones that we know by name.
So you say there's 14 archangels. Um, is there, do they like ascend, and do we add on archangels every periodically? Do we, or is it one set amount of archangels for all time, or is there some that like graduate and they become another archangel?
You know, that's a very good question. I think my Seraphim Kaziel has commented on this and been asked this too. He said that souls can't and don't graduate, um, should become an angel or evolve into an angel or even a seraphim. Um, they were some of, not the first, but some of the earlier, basically children divisions of what we could call God. I also know it by Allah, source creator. Lots of names for the Almighty, Supreme. Anyway, also Archangel Metatron, as I've channeled him, spoke directly, and my Seraphim Kazael guide has also commented on this, that Archangel Metatron's legend is that he was a human who then lived pretty much perfectly as a child and growing up, and then as an adult ascended from his three-dimensional body, literally transformed into an angel. And he didn't die, but he just left this plane, turning into an angel. Um, Archangel Metatron, except Archangel Metatron is known. He actually told me this before I heard this from other people, but he's known as a bridge of light between heaven and earth. And he's told me that he functions as the function of um, the brilliant sacred geometrical knowledge from heaven and the light realm, and translates that into the geometrical forms that we see in nature throughout the earth and our cosmos too. Um, so what I understand of Archangel Metatron, to answer that question, he's a good example, is that Archangel Metatron incarnated as Enoch, according to what Metatron and my Seraphim Kazael has told me. And so then, as Enoch, as a direct incarnation as the human named Enoch, then he eventually became transformed or returned back into an angel form. Um, and he wrote the Book of Enoch to leave holy messages on earth, um, to guide us a bit better back then. So yeah, what I understand is that we as souls can't literally graduate, as we would call it, to become an angel, but it's more like the angels are part of the absolute, um, different classes, sort of emanations of God, the Creator, but they
Okay.
guide us.
Okay. Awesome. 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 So you've also spoke about you seeing orbs all the time on a daily
Mhm.
basis. You see orbs. Can you describe those?
Thank you for asking. Yeah. Yeah, I do. I I can't photograph them. They don't show up in my like photographs I can see digitally or print out or anything like that. But yeah, I see them as light around me. Since I was a child, I would often, in more relaxed states of mind, I would just see these little points of, quite often, it used to be just blue or gold little points of light, just sort of blink in and out in my, especially peripheral vision. Um, and then as I've, like, especially since my walk-in in 2020, I think I've developed, or my vision for orbs has changed. Um, I don't see them when I'm focusing on them consciously, but they do show up. It's sometimes I've seen white orbs. Sometimes I've seen, I think, even black or dark orbs, which aren't necessarily evil, but they're like just different colors. Sometimes I've seen blue lights in the air, and they just sort of like pop in and out a distance away from me. Even in my apartment, especially like when I'm having high vibrational conversations, this has happened a lot. Um, then there's another thing, I think that's similar to orb forms, but I've heard other people talk about this. They're they're described as like grids or tears in the air. And I remember this one time, I want to say it was after the first time. Hmm. I don't think it was the very first time that I had channeled Seraphim Kazael and his messages and then prepared it for YouTube. But I think it was after I channeled him for like an hour, over an hour, just for one-off session with another walk-in starseed friend of mine. And I was preparing one of my channeling videos anyway, Seraphim channelings, on my computer. And then I looked up and saw this big, gigantic, just basically grid of, wasn't necessarily white light, but just like light, just kind of, I think, bluish and purple light too, just pop in front of me, show up in front of me, and then go away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
I,
that is, but it could be like light illuminations of the matrix itself. I don't know.
uh, I feel like I've seen black orbs because every once in a while, like you're saying, they're just like a almost looking like a fly or the back of
Hmm.
a pen, the back of the pen size. Um,
Hmm.
just real small, and I see it kind of moving. Now, I'm not sure if I'm seeing that or if it's something else. But it catches my eye and it makes me think twice about it. So it makes me wonder if it really was.
Yeah. Yeah, I've questioned also if some of the little lights I see like in the sky too, which might be a totally different subject, but little lights that I see just blink in and out. Like you said, also I see the little black. Um, sometimes they're not always spherical or round, but just like little black things pop in and out in my peripheral vision, and then yeah, other lights too. I've wondered if that's just like a trick of my eyes or my eyes changing, but I don't think it is because it just keeps happening.
And your
And
mind sticks with it. So it you just remember it. So that's what makes me wonder if it really happened, if that was something, because it stays with
yeah,
you.
yeah. Um, I'm sure that it is an ability of some of us sensitives. So far today, I haven't gone to see like a clinical ophthalmologist to get my eyes studied in depth of like the structure, the cones and rods and stuff in them, how they're working. I've heard though that ophthalmologists can measure that, like if people have extra rods or cones in their eyes, that may grant us the ability to like see some of these lights and see extra wavelengths, like clairvoyants and psychics do. Yeah, so that's what I've heard, but I think that would be interesting and helpful for anyone seeing this to get that evaluated and ruled out.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that. So yeah, that would be something to check into.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but
Yeah.
don't try to don't um don't go to what is it, an optometrist. They're not the ones who study the structure of your eye in depth. They just study like how well you can see and tell you if you need glasses and stuff like that. Um, yeah, it's an ophthalmologist that does the more in-depth study. They have the equipment to do that.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, bit of human knowledge there.
That's pretty cool. That's something that would be really interesting, especially since, and it's kind of with the hearing too. They say I have tinnitus, but I really
Hmm.
wonder if I actually do, or if it's the spirit speaking with me or trying to speak with me. Because it's not
Yeah,
fully consistent. It's just kind of here and there. It might go a little bit, but it's kind of the same thing. The eyes possibly seeing things or my ears. I don't know. It's hard to.
yeah, that's like a whole other subject. Thank you for bringing that up. I've also been certified in hypnotherapy for tinnitus treatment, and that does help a lot. Sometimes people have been cured by it too. It's different for every case. Um, I cannot advise for any sensitive or spiritualist to just assume that tinnitus is frequencies and messages from the spirit realm, because I have diagnosed and measurable hearing loss, and that's a real thing. And especially if you listen to loud music or go to concerts or are exposed to loud noises, or there's other causes too of hearing loss. Sometimes it's genetic or other things. But yeah, I think it's always important, if you're hearing tinnitus or other sounds in your ears, um, go get your ears evaluated by an audiologist and ENT also, to both that are actually essential to rule out if you have damage or something else going on. Um, and it's not just a psychic ability or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to just assume that's a psychic thing and then walk around having either damaged ears or progressively worsening um, hearing, because that can happen too. Sometimes hearing declines quickly or relatively quickly. People just don't know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but sometimes tinnitus frequencies, especially when they happen just for a short duration and come and go, sometimes that is actual just frequency that people hear audibly.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of the way I describe this, though, or help people understand this world, is kind of like with the 3D world and vibrational dimensional worlds. All of it overlaps. 3D world is, of course, kind of part of the illusion. In the tantric schools, it's called Vedanta, the illusion that we're actually here, that we're actually these bodies, but they're just vessels for consciousness. Um, but the way to understand that is also with that, I forget what it's called, if it has a specific name, but that graph, or what's it called? Sort of the range of frequencies that's been measured by devices of far infrared radio signals, radio frequency, and then this tiny little, I think it's only like 1 to 5% of the whole spectrum, this rainbow frequency that we see as colors and sounds, hear sounds, that humans can typically perceive with our physical senses. Um, but then it's like this whole other, also way into the um, higher frequencies, into the violet, ultraviolet, and beyond spectrums that are measurable by devices, um, human inventions. Um, I think that's a very viable, easy way to understand that, and it's provable too. That yes, there is. We humans, our bodies anyway, typically can only see and perceive this wavelength between about infrared or red frequencies, colors, and sounds, um, into the purple. Some psychics have, like I said, extra cones and rods that can see ultraviolet, um, and into that spectrum, sometimes beyond. But yeah, then it's way beyond the violet spectrum that is beyond us, and that's probably a good way of hypothesizing that angels and heavenly beings, other dimensions too, are resonant at or within that type of frequency range too. And then the lower realms too, demonic realms sometimes. I'm not saying that the red and ultra or infrared spectrum is evil or dark. It's just a lower vibration, but sometimes that's and the darker stuff is where demons and entity attachments, entity vampires and energy vampires and other troublemaking spirits hang out too in the lower vibrational realms. Yeah,
Yeah. Since you brought that up, you've dealt with the exorcists and getting rid of the demons or demonic energies and whatnot. Talk about some of that.
I'd love to. Yeah, that's
I
actually one of
love the
my
smile.
passions. So, where to begin? So, I can say that I've really been at this for 12 years already in this body, in this lifetime, probably hundreds of thousands of years in other bodies too, dealing with demons and darkness and, um, the contrast stuff of this world. Um, yeah, so I'll start by just simply saying that it was before my walk-in, my walkout when he was 17 years old in this body, um, was involved in kind of his first intimate relationship, and um, it was both loving and exciting, but also dark and dramatic at times um, with that relationship. And the night of, I call it was the night of the blood moon. I tell this story in three parts also on my YouTube channel. Um, I have it chronicled there, but it was the night of the blood moon in October of 2013 that um, his girlfriend, um, she has since uh, moved on after taking her life. That was a different end of this, or part of the story anyway. Basically, her blood circle demon that she was born with came out and manipulated him to drive her to meet one of her friends, and then it started to choke him, trying to choke him to death in front of him. Fortunately, he was able to stop that and save that boy's life. But um, yeah, then it was after that also that he learned that crystal energy, at least for that demon, suppressed it. Now, crystals are something else. You do have to cleanse them and program them, but once they already have a high vibration imprinted and they're vibrating at that, then they are like kryptonite to demons. Um, I'll just share that tidbit, but I'm not saying that you can exorcise all demons with just one crystal, no matter what you do with it. Some demons require an actual specialist to remove them, or something else too. Anyway, yeah, so that was the start of my entity removal, demonic, um, banishing journey in this lifetime, this body anyway. And yeah, there's been quite a few demons that have crossed my path since my walk-in, but many others, also evil aliens. Mostly it was before my walk-in that the evil aliens came and then were banished. That's another interesting part of my journey is that I've found that working with angels as well as I know them as Neptunians, some benevolent, high powerful ETs can actually just remove evil aliens from this world if they're causing a human too much trouble, um, and if they don't belong here. And yeah, so that's interesting because I've dealt with direct and physical interference and problems with evil aliens, energetic interference with them too on different levels. And But then after I connected with and prayed and asked for help from archangels, also my spirit guide and spirit relative Saint John the Baptist, my Neptunian friend also, who apparently the Neptunians have to report to the angelic council. They're the ones who told me about the angelic council first, um, to help remove demons. Then, yeah, then I found that um, they just disappear.
That's
They
crazy.
vanish. Their problems stop.
That's crazy.
Um, yeah, there was one reptilian queen, I'd call her, in about 2019 that my walkout dealt with, that caused him and my now wife a lot of trouble and grievance. I think for many months, actually. I think they arrived maybe in late 2018. I suspect they were here anyway, um, causing interference, preventing spiritual evolution of him. Um, and yeah, it was a struggle with them. Her hatchlings were basically iguana humanoids, and they were ugly, from what my now wife told me. But then it was during that struggle that a friend he reached out to, an astral combat friend, um, connected him with a spirit guide who wanted to help out. And that spirit guide happened to be on the planet Neptune. Back then, he'd never heard of or beings on the planet Neptune, but that was some of the most, at least until then, most powerful and clear telepathic contact he'd had with those Neptunians. Um, they're like a whole other dimensional level, very high vibrational level. And anyway, there was this one incident that was kind of dangerous, maybe even life-threatening, that they caused. Um, yeah, there were some physiological problems with that. I need to make a video about that story, or videos chronicling that. I think I've written about that story though, online, on my Substack and Facebook too. Um, yeah, but then it was after I reported this like final incident to my Neptunian friend. What he would do, by the way, their technology is that he would like beam me this sphere in front of me with my eyes
Hmm.
closed, but I knew it was there. And he would ask me to basically download all of the knowledge I knew of demons or evil aliens, in particular incidents or about them, into the sphere. And then once I was done with that, um, it took maybe seconds or minutes sometimes, depending on the case, but um, the sphere would beam back to Neptune. He would then tell me that he would take care of it, or sometimes he said that he would have to relay it to the angelic council, and then it would be taken care of, taken out of my life. And so, yeah, then it was, what is it? Yeah, after this one incident that these iguana-headed evil aliens that were harassing us, causing a lot of trouble too, just disappeared.
Hmm.
Oh, in that
Well,
story, I'll say I also did per like pick up on where one of their portals was in the neighborhood, as well as there are two portals that myself and another psychic had to close from them. But yeah, it was yeah. So that's like at least a brief summary into some of my demon and alien removal experiences.
so tell me how you transition with the walkout and the walk in. How
Hmm.
can you describe that and how that works? Um, I'm still trying to grasp my head around that. I feel like I've been told I'm a walk-in, so
Hmm.
I'm like, what's that process? How does that work?
Yes, I do sense that yeah, you do have a walk-in frequency. We could talk about that for you later. But yeah, so let me clarify something that some people I've talked with in the past have kind of assumed about walk-ins that's false, is that some people have, or there's some rumor out there, I think, that some people have said that walk-ins are demons and that we're evil or that we're like a demonic takeover, which is absolutely false. And the opposite of the case, walk-ins always have to respect the soul's free will. Walk-ins can only occur through an agreed upon soul contract, which in most walk-in cases is signed and agreed on before the body's birth or the soul incarnation, um, the natal soul incarnation. Some rare walk-ins I've heard have occurred, like the soul contract is made after the body is born, which can only happen when a natal soul is like they're dealing with a lot of trouble, a lot of difficult karma, things in life that they just can't resolve themselves. And instead of committing suicide, it's like better for the soul and also the other spirit that agrees on it, um, to this walk-in exchange, and then the walk-in comes in always from a higher dimensional level, higher other dimension, fifth dimension, or other realm, angel dimension. Some of us, um, and then yeah, the walk-in comes in. Usually, the walk-in soul will take on the remaining karma, um, and soul contracts of the body that the natal soul didn't complete. And so then it's the sort of within the power and responsibility in the agreement of the walk-in soul to complete, the karmic contract and clean that up, then bring the soul into like basically the fulfillment of their soul purpose and contract, aligned with light, always a lighter purpose, benevolent purpose, holy purpose sometimes. And yeah, so that's some of the basics of a walk-in. Um, and then what I understand of, at least when souls exchange, the exchange walk-in case, then the natal soul will leave the body, and usually the natal soul either just returns to a heavenly or spirit dimension and rests or is healed there, or whatever the case is. Um, Never to a lower dimension, though. That isn't the purpose of that. Um, in my case, as a starseed and angel walk-in, um, my soul came directly before this one from a gray alien body, Zeta body from, um, might call it our cohort of grays and mantis beings. And we're of the enlightened school of grays and mantis, or a class of grays and mantis beings. Um, yeah, we're working in alignment with the Galactic Federation. And so I came from a gray body. He actually switched out and went to that body, so we exchanged that way. Um, there are also different types of walk-ins. Some walk-ins keep the natal soul still living in the body, but it's like a part of usually the higher self, or a soul or part of a soul or essence from their soul family. or something along those lines will infuse with the natal soul or braid with the natal soul, um, like infused or braid with their aura, then bringing them to a different dimension. But it is kind of like these separate parts, or even not multiple personality disorder or anything like that, but it's kind of like, yeah, these different parts of the soul that are known and working together, um, then bring the soul, the individual into like a higher density vibration, um, to serve Earth better and to serve Earth in this grand change time, and that's why walk-ins are happening. Um, this was part of the explanation for my walk-in purpose. Also, in my first QHHT session after my walk-in, that I came to participate in this grand awakening period of Earth, and you can sort of metaphorically liken what we're going through right now on Earth as Earth basically passing through kind of metaphorically a birthing canal, which is dramatic and painful, usually results in screaming. But then after the birth, um, something new is born and it can then be cleaned and grown and taught and become a beautiful being. Um, so, yeah, by the way, on that note, I want to convey also those light workers out there who are excited about living in the golden age now. You're gonna have to wait a long, long time before we are there, because this is not the golden age. The golden age cannot be something that is granted just by passing through an astrological or astronomical alignment or a time period. The golden age requires work and complete cohesive evolution, like actual evolution of 100% of an evolved species on a planet. And we're maybe only laying down the foundation for the later coming golden age right now. But yeah, we have a lot to do still with our collective species.
So when the step in and the step out, when they take their place,
Mhm.
when they take their place, does the personality of the person change with that new being? Is there
It-
like is that when
yeah.
they awaken or something to where is it like a
Um,
cut quick
so
change or I'm just curious.
yeah. So I don't know what your walk-in process was like, but I think, at least from what I've heard, very few, or not all walk-ins anyway, um, just wake up the next morning or wake up after the walk-in exchange, whenever it is, um, and just suddenly become this awake, vibrant being. Um, I've only heard of like maybe one or two cases of that happening, but most walk-ins are an extremely painful process. I think that sort of the rules or laws of a walk-in process um, have changed and recalibrated over time. And it used to be more common, or pretty much the case universally, that walk-ins can would only happen during a near-death experience, which many have. Not That's not required anymore. I didn't have a near-death experience of this body being pronounced clinically dead and then coming back to life after the walk-in. Um, Mine was just an overnight sleep, psychic surgery. I remember that process too. Um, it's a very delicate but interesting process. And most walk-ins, though, have like, I've heard, their whole energy body from their heart chakra level up pretty much stripped away, and then with the new soul, a whole new set of energy, body, and chakras and energy is inserted to replace that. And that's what I experienced. Um, my lower body chakras only changed a little bit after my walk-in integration. Um, After my walk-in, I came in like November of 2020, so it was already a pretty depressing time on Earth, relatively. But
Mhm.
then this body, I think, was also experiencing a bout of seasonal affective disorder, which I haven't had since. It's not required for this body. Um, but yeah, that was a depressing while, and I had 3 weeks of a vice grip headache. That was one symptom. Um, then usually the typical walk-in integration period I've heard is about 6 months, and that's what I experienced myself after the soul exchange. Um, then there's always symptoms, and it takes a while for this new soul that the original body wasn't used to. It takes a while for the body and the soul to fully like sync up and agree. But yeah, it was about 6, maybe 7 months after um, my walk-in exchange moment, a date that um, then I had this sort of realization or like feeling in me that finally I felt like I actually belong in this body. Um, After my walk-in, I also felt like just an absolute void in my heart, which was definitely part of the walk-in soul exchange, but I think other things happening at that time too. It took me a while to learn to fully love and be passionate again, and it took me some time to actually remember um, who I care about and love and restore my love for humanity after my walk-in. But yeah, there are symptoms too of the walk-in experience that are pretty telltale. One of them is that happened to me is I would start seeing and feeling like a different soul's essence looking back at me in the bathroom mirror through my eyes. Um, it's just a different soul. That's who I am now, though. Took some time to get used to. Another one that was a little more subtle for me um, was every day during that integration period, memory bubbles, moments. A lot of them were random, not like highly significant, but just memories from my walkouts lifetime would come up into my mind during the day. And then it was like, um, it felt like kind of like viewing a, a movie clip or a video clip and seeing it and uh, knowing what the memory is of. Some of them were even things that, moments that uh, I thought I'd forgotten or that yeah, they were so insignificant that um, I wouldn't have expected to remember because, anyway, that was part of the memory, just sort of, I think, reintegrating with my spirit. Um, yeah, that's one symptom, anyway. Um,
Well, thank you so much for being on the show because that's a lot of information. And yes, I would
mhm,
like to get with you and talk about this walk-in thing. And also about our DNA because
mhm.
I think we do have the same DNA going on here. So I would love to chat with you some more. So when you have time.
Let's
But
do that.
all right. Yeah. Well, thank you again for being on the show. And you got a lot of information and we got through a lot of it. So yeah. That's pretty awesome. That's awesome. And you are welcome back anytime if you have more stories you want to share.
Certainly have a lot of stories. So thank you, Dana. It was lovely to share my experiences and knowledge on Light Talk today. And yeah, definitely will be in touch. Uh, I'd love to talk to you about your walk-in and walk-ins. That's just also a topic I love to talk about too. That's one thing I dug into and nerded out about after my walk-in. Yeah,
All right. Yeah, let's get together and chat. So I'll let you go before your phone dies or your laptop there dies. So we will see you next. If you have a story that you would like to share on any of the paranormal or supernaturals that happened in your life, absolutely contact me. Email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com and we will get you in touch with all of this. So we will see everybody next time. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.